You require valuable inputs to conduct empirical research, doctoral research, or any research. Because research is not just a compilation of data or combination of data or collection of data from internet. Because internet data is easily available. At a click of mouse, you can have huge data, but half of the data is really relevant, really connected to a research assignment. But the research is of some quality, especially in case of the relevant data. So let us have some a discussion on the interface between internet data and quality of research. Okay, and you can raise questions at any point of time. I don't mind. How to? I love to hear it from you. Your questions. Questions must be uh, in the context. Even if you have irrelevant questions, you are most welcome. Okay. Now, friends, research has different meaning, different connotations for different people. For a student of LLB, research means writing research projects, submitting research papers for seminar. For LLM, for PhD, it would have different meanings, different connotation. For teachers, doing research projects for Department of Law and Justice, then research projects for CSSR, UGC, and other agencies. For legal practitioners, advocates, legal research has different connotations. They always talk about specific judgments, supporting arguments, and judges have different meanings for research. And friends, when you talk about research, you must understand the philosophical dimensions of research. See, initially, this inquiry, research inquiry was based on theoretical perspective, belief, and trust. So it was criticized by various scholars. Later on, uh, the theory of rationalism was propounded by Aristotle, Socrates, and Plato. That you must give proper justification, rationale for doing some research. Now, later on, the theory of empiricism emerged, and the scholar of this particular theory believed that it is the testing of theory, verifying that particular theory, how far the theory is really uh, practiced, has really been approved by the existing facts. And the dispute between rationalism and empiricism continued for a long time. And thereafter, the benefits of these theories were taken into consideration by various scholars, and the scholars came out with positivism. Now you have anti-positivism, post-positivism, critical theory. There are so many theories, philosophical dimensions of research have emerged. So you have to understand that research is a dynamic concept. Research is a continuous process, and it keeps on changing. And research is an honest exercise, intelligent exercise, searching for the facts. So if you are so serious about honest exercise, so you must collect relevant data. You must not manufacture data according to your convenience to suit your requirements. But we do it because we always try to approve our hypothesis solely on the basis of manufactured data, manipulated data, or the data that cannot be trusted by anyone. So whenever you do research, kindly locate, collect, and rely upon authentic data, logical data, complete data, and latest data. So I'll be talking about some judgments regarding latest data and authentic data. So you do some research and inquiry with the help of facts, with the help of data that is available in the public domain. And if you want to conduct empirical research, then you are required to collect primary data. And I feel there is a confusion regarding primary data and secondary data. Whether a statute or judgment enacted by the parliament can be treated as primary data. I hope you understand this classification. Classification of data for the purpose of research. Anyone? Whether a judgment delivered by Supreme Court on 20th August 2021 can be treated as primary data, because you have to understand the distinction between primary data and secondary data for doing a quality research. So can any one of you tell us about the status of a judgment delivered by Supreme Court or a primary statute enacted by the Parliament of India? Whether these data would be part of primary data or secondary data? Anyone? Yes, friends. Yeah, I think third year students. Yeah.
So I think it will be primary data because basically it is based on the surveys which are conducted, and then it is compiled to secondary data. It's a next process.
Primary data, because you understand the fundamentals of this classification. In case of primary data, the data is created by the researcher. This is first hand data, and you know what are the tools of creation of data. Number two, secondary data. In case of secondary data, data is created by the researcher. The data which is in existence or existing data is used or interpreted by the researcher for the purpose of his research. So in case of judgments, law commission report, primary statute, or maybe any other article written by Professor A, B, C, D, or X, Y, Z, it would be a secondary data. It is recognized as second hand data. Now this second hand data is highly unreliable because a researcher, yeah, who's that? Because the researcher is expected to verify the data, authenticity of the data. Now I tell you one particular.
मनीषा किधर बैठी है?
मनीषा तो है ना, आज वो होस्ट
I think you need to take care of all these interferences. Organizer,
बॉडी पे हो गया है।
kindly unmute the person. Mute the person.
मेरा सिग्नल नहीं आ रहा है। नहीं, मेरा नहीं आ रहा है। देख, बंद हो गई।
What's happening? Shall we proceed further? Okay. So I was talking about the classification of data and necessity of data. So friends, research requires deep sea fishing, not that superficial fishing. And for that purpose, you have to collect data regarding insider's perspective or outsider's perspective. Then only you can collect relevant data. Now you must have seen researchers becoming part of that process, immersing in the process of research while conducting some research assignments on tribals, the practices followed by tribunals, or maybe conditions, social conditions related to marriages or dowry. And I know there's a particular case reported about the involvement of one particular researcher. The researcher was looking into the problems faced by prostitutes. So she became prostitute to have that insider's perspective. So it is your duty to have that insider's perspective and collect relevant data. You may conduct pilot study to know that insider's perspective. But the moment you just compile the data or describe the data, it will not be treated as any research at all unless you analyze the data, interpret the data, and come out with your own analysis, because research is not storytelling or essay writing. Research is a systematic approach of gathering information, then making decision thereafter. And what is expected in case of research with the help of data, whether it is primary data or secondary data, that you must add to the existing pool of knowledge. You must add something to the stock of existing knowledge. If you are going to repeat, reiterate, recapitulate the existing literature, existing data, then according to my understanding, such assignment would not be part of research. And I've seen some PhD theses. PhD degrees have been awarded without any research. So I think we can't expect from scholars of legal education to do that kind of research. So whenever you examine any data, some articles written by ABC, XYZ, now there's a practice going on where articles are written by scholars and teachers become first author. So that kind of practices are unlikely to contribute to the existing pool of knowledge. And friends, research in social science is very, very different from science research. In case of science, two components of hydrogen, you add two components of hydrogen and one component of oxygen, it becomes water across the globe, whether it is India or maybe uh, Russia or any other country. So it becomes very easy for the researcher to replicate research in science. But replication is not at all possible in case of social science, because social science deals with human behavior, human conduct that is highly unreliable, cannot be trusted. See, if you want to conduct some research, maybe on dowry in Delhi, then Haryana, Rajasthan, or any other place, it will have different meanings for different people. Corruption also. Corruption may be a serious problem in case of Delhi or Haryana or UP. It may not be so serious in case of Kerala, Karnataka, or other country, other states. In some of the countries, say in case of Bhutan, they don't have RTI Act. Still, the quality of governance is wonderful in case of Bhutan. And there are more than 145 countries which have enacted RTI legislations. But RTI is not in a position to take care of corruption. It happens because of us. Right? So, social science research is very, very difficult. If you follow a systematic approach, the scientific method, use scientific tool, reliable data, accurate data, latest data, then there is a possibility of replication. There is a possibility of verifiability. So data is very, very important for any research. But in science, you do lab research or any other research. That is very easy to prove, to replicate. But this is one of the limitations of social science research. So whenever you do research, kindly focus only on three fundamentals, whether it's a doctoral research or non-doctoral research. When you write research paper or write research report, or you frame your research proposal, draft your research proposal, kindly focus only on three fundamentals. Number one, identification of research problem or research issue. Number two, critical analysis of the research problem or issues identified by the author. Number three, accurate finding and viable recommendations. So in order to comply with the requirements of these fundamentals for research, data is very important. If you use irrelevant data, inaccurate data, your findings would be of no use. And if you don't understand the latest information, I tell you one particular judgment. And the judgment was delivered, I think, in 2019. And this is the judgment related to payment of gratuity, the state of Jharkhand. In that particular judgment, the issues were related to payment of gratuity, whether teachers are eligible for payment of gratuity or not. And this particular judgment, when delivered by Supreme Court Division Bench, they came to the conclusion in January 2019 that teachers are not entitled to payment of gratuity. And the judgment relied upon two judgments. The judgments, earlier judgments of 1998 and 2004, were not at all related to gratuity. And the Supreme Court was not aware of this particular latest development. And the information related to Payment of Gratuity Amendment Act 2009 was not placed with the Supreme Court by advocates. So see the status of the monitoring status of information. This particular fact was not brought before the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court also did not take into consideration that Amendment Act. They were not aware of this particular fact. Now the judgment in January 2019 was delivered, and it was held by the Supreme Court that teachers are not entitled to payment of gratuity. When this particular fact was placed with Supreme Court, there was so much of criticism of this particular judgment in social media that the Supreme Court took cognizance of all these observations, suo motu, withdrew the judgment, reviewed the judgment, and after taking into consideration that 2019 Amendment Act of Payment of Gratuity, Because that Amendment Act of 2019 has been applied from retrospective date of 1997. So after relying upon the latest data, after discovering the latest data, the judgment was reviewed. So whenever you do research, kindly take care of accuracy and the status of data. You must have latest data. Otherwise, it is unlikely to help. And friends, all the laws, whether you talk about family law, contract law, or any other law, all the laws have emerged because of dilution of ethical values. So that you must collect relevant data when you talk about writing research paper. See the case of contract law. See, initially, during ancient times, people used to respect words, oral agreements. Pran jaye par vachan na jaye. Thereafter, people started ignoring oral agreements, and that contributed to written agreement. And written agreements are also registered nowadays. And still, people question authenticity of agreements. So many disputes are pending regarding agreements, written agreements. So whenever you talk about historical perspective of any statute, look into that jurisprudential paradigm. Collect relevant data regarding jurisprudential paradigm, contract law, family law, labor law. See, in case of labor law, right to form association was treated as a crime. Workers were punished because of their involvement in trade union related activities. Thereafter, this Trade Unions Act 1926 was implemented. And breach of contract of employment was also treated as crime. Not complying with the requirements or mandate of employer was treated as crime. So therefore you have labor law, juvenile justice, that Amendment Act of 2016, where a minor can be treated as major. It has historical perspective. So whenever you do research, kindly look into the jurisprudential paradigms of the particular law or particular facet. So subject matter understanding is very, very pertinent. So collect relevant data, reliable data in order to formulate some research question, research hypothesis, and you also require relevant data, latest data for critical analysis of the identified issues or making viable solution of the patent identified issues, right? So any question, any clarification? Okay. Now subject analysis, again, 3 fundamentals. And for that purpose, you need relevant data, pertinent data. Number 1, you must explore what was the law. This is related to jurisprudential paradigms of the subject. Number 2, what is the existing law? What is the law? And here you have to understand analysis of statutes, how to examine a statute, how to examine or critically examine some judgments delivered by Supreme Court or High Court. And the third one is what ought to be the law. So without understanding limitations and pitfalls of the existing law, you cannot make recommendations to resolve the limitations. So what is your understanding of hierarchy method? Anyone? Hierarchy method of case analysis. Do you know something about this method? Any one of you? HIRAC. See, a student is not expected to go through some 500 pages, 400 pages, but a researcher is expected to look for certain important indicators or parameters while examining or critically analyzing a judgment delivered by the judiciary. So can you tell me something about hierarchy method of case analysis? Any one of the students? Have you heard of HIRAC? Anyone? Yes, friends.
So it's basically, I think, a method where we identify the risk or risk involved and try to mitigate it.
Friends, if you are sure then communicate. Have you heard of it or you're not heard of it? It means you've not studied the case analysis method at all. This is very pertinent for law students. Okay, no problem. Do some research on that. Find out case analysis method, because internet is a very powerful tool to have access to internet data. H stands for history. It deals with factual matrix. I stands for issues determined by the court. R stands for rule, statutes, relevant statutes. Up E, and then A. A stands for application. How far the judiciary has applied rules to the given or determined issues. And C stands for the conclusion. That is the speaking order. It is also called ratio of the judgment. So whenever you examine any judgment, whenever you collect any judgment, kindly collect the judgment, original judgment from authentic website. And if you are going to rely upon some judgment quoted by somebody else, it is unlikely to give you that accurate information, accurate data. So read original judgment, complete judgment, follow this particular method of case analysis. Then you can raise any research question. You can critically examine any issue. So subject matter analysis is very much relevant, and for that purpose, need authentic, accurate, latest and reliable data, which may not be available on internet, which may be available on internet, but you may not be in a position to collect the data or identify the data, the need of the data for the particular research assignment. So subject analysis is very, very relevant for the purpose of collection of data. Now friends, use of internet data for the advancement of legal education and research. You know, IT has become an integral part of all the professions. Like nowadays, you can have speedy access to data, use internet, collect data, huge data is available. You can store data, you can create data. So this IT tool is a wonderful tool to have access to internet data. You can have lectures, videos available, books are available, articles. Huge chunk of data is available. You are not required to visit library. Like we are delivering online lectures. This is again a contribution of ICT. We are not expected to visit library all the time. But there are some issues regarding free access and paid access. There are free access, where information is free of cost or openly available in the public domain, and the person is not required to make any payment, not required to subscribe it. But again, there is a problem of quality of data. I had done some research on this particular issue. Now paid access, you have so many softwares, so many packages, Manupatra, SEC, Westlaw, national, international softwares, data platforms available only after subscription. This is paid. So there is a problem with respect to accessibility also. And in case of IT data, friends, IT data can be trusted, cannot be trusted depending upon your requirement. But you must know what are the tools which are available for recording data, analyzing data, and report writing, verifying data. You have so many online research papers, online publications. You can also conduct online survey for empirical research in India and abroad also, not required to visit other places. But again, there are some issues regarding online surveys. Because I've seen for the purpose of my research that people were not so willing to provide feedbacks, valuable inputs for various parameters. It has happened. So it becomes very technical, very difficult for researcher to collect data online. So these are the limitations of online system ICT. Now, yes, this is regarding collection of existing literature. Why do you collect data? You collect data to find out the details of the subject. You collect data to map your understanding of the literature. You want to know each and everything about the data, nature and scope of particular data. So the basic objective of collection of data is to know, is to explore, is to explain and summarize existing data. The moment you critically examine existing data, then you identify research problems. Then you formulate research questions. But your understanding should not be confined to one particular parameter. Like if you are doing some research on labor law, then there is every possibility of integration. Like if you are doing some research on merger and acquisition, entitlement of workers in case of merger and acquisition, then you have to have some understanding of labor law as well as company law, or maybe the involvement of FEMA or the SEBI's Act 1992. So you have to know your requirements for data collection, because the data collection is a very meticulous exercise. You have to confine the data. You have to narrow down to specific parameters, specific indicators, and you cannot collect irrelevant data, the data which is not connected to the specific, the major premise of your research article or research proposal. So it becomes very pertinent for the researcher to collect literature. So these are the mandates of collection of existing literature, existing data. Now, how to locate relevant data or relevant literature for the purpose of your research? So what would be your approach when you collect data from internet? Yes, friends. If there is a proposition given to you, there is a research project, and research project is related to artificial intelligence. That use of artificial intelligence in legal profession or maybe for research. So what would be your approach? How would you collect the data? And from where do you collect the data? Anyone? What would be your approach? The research topic is artificial intelligence and legal research. How are you going to collect data? Yeah. Anyone?
So for the fulfillment
Sir,
of
from book.
objective,
One at a time, please. Yes.
so for the fulfillment of the objective of our research.
See, there's a topic, artificial intelligence and legal research. So what would be your approach to collect the data? How are you going to collect data on the particular topic?
Sir, from journals, magazines, and from internet.
Okay. That's it. You
Sir,
must
from
understand
professors.
friends, you must understand the nature and scope of your research. Then only you would be in a position to collect relevant data. Artificial intelligence. You will try to explore the concept of artificial intelligence. Then legal research and that interface between artificial intelligence and legal research. The contribution of artificial intelligence for the advancement of legal research. So this is a systematic approach which is required. Otherwise, what is the purpose of examining some 50 articles or 100 articles or 20 reports for the purpose of your research assignment? So you must highlight you must identify major premise, and you have to narrow it down to the specific issues. You cannot generalize research. So you need specific data, not general data regarding artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence and legal research. Artificial intelligence can be applied to any scheme like your nowadays online services, right? But we are concerned with legal research, the interface between artificial intelligence and legal research. Cryptocurrency, regulation of cryptocurrency, and there's so many issues. There's contemporary issues. So first of all, you must read relevant literature on the broad concepts. You have to have a sound understanding, clear understanding of the concept. Then you can talk about collection of data from internet or maybe other sources, maybe from professors also or other sources. Now this internet data is easily available, but it involves so many hindrances. Internet data is very dangerous data. If you don't understand artificial intelligence and legal research, then you are likely to be misled by the data, because the data cannot be relied upon. See the case of UGC regulations and guidelines. Now you can Google it on Google. Whether UGC has framed regulations or guidelines for the appointment of teachers, or plagiarism, regulating plagiarism, or any other activity, you would find lot of literature regarding guidelines, where so many professors, so many scholars have considered UGC regulations as UGC guidelines. If you are going to rely upon that data, then your outcome is likely to be affected adversely, because regulations are very different from guidelines. You must understand the legal sanction behind regulations and legal status of guidelines. Guidelines are not required to be complied with. You have the discretion either to follow or not to follow guidelines. But when it comes to regulation, which has a binding force, you don't have any discretion at all. So you must know the concept, legal sanction. And this is again very pertinent with respect to primary data and secondary data regarding legal research. So much of literature is available on this particular issue. But we feel that law is not an integral part of social science. Law is different from social science. Law has a different research methodology as compared to social science. But this is not logical approach. And that so much of literature available regarding the classification of data into primary data and secondary data, that a statute and a judgment has been treated as a part of primary research. So don't be misled by that misinterpretation or incorrect interpretation of some fundamentals are governing classification of primary and secondary data, right? So how to locate data? This is very, very important. Offline sources and online sources, you can classify that. And since we are talking about internet sources, so much of data is available. You have so many packages, right? You have so many sources, internet sources. You can Google it on Google. And when it comes to judgment, kindly read original judgment. Critically examine original judgment. Read original report from original sources. Collect data from authentic source. official source. If you are working on some research article on labor law, then collect relevant data from Ministry of Labor and Employment. If you are working on some research article on company law, collect relevant article from or information from Ministry of Corporate Affairs or the relevant websites, and reports, Law Commission reports from the Law Commission. So examine the data from original source, authentic source. And if you are going to rely upon some secondary source, second-hand data, then your research is likely to be diluted by that inaccurate data or inauthentic data. Fine. So collect data from authentic source, official source. Try to find out latest data. Latest data may not be available on the website of some ministry, but you must collect relevant data from other sources like latest amendments, latest judgments. Right? So how to locate data is very much relevant, very much connected. So you must be very cautious about internet data, right? Because authentic data is the desirable requirement of research. Otherwise, there are a lot of problems regarding accuracy, quantity, authenticity, and latest data. Okay, any question regarding this? Regarding location of data, collection of data, online or offline data collection part? Okay, so whenever you collect data, friends, give proper reference, respect that information, source, because academic dishonesty is never rewarded. Academic theft is always punished. You have the policy on plagiarism. So be honest and recognize the source of data. Right? So whenever you collect data, can you find out the data authenticity? Ask certain relevant questions yourself in order to verify the authenticity of data. Number one, is the data reliable? Is the information error-free? Factual information, information that can be verified from other sources? What are the credentials of author? Like if an article is written by professor is the first author, and you have some students, but there is every possibility because there is a practice. I have seen it. There are so many articles written by students, the teachers' names were included. Teachers became first author. So if that is the case, then what about that expertise? Number one, I have seen some teachers writing research articles on various subjects. So here you have to take into consideration the expertise of that professor. If that area of expertise of professor is say criminal law, so you must rely upon that expertise. This is my apprehension or my feeling about authenticity or accuracy of the data, authenticity of the particular data or originality of the data. Now, relevancy of information, how far that information is relevant. This is very important. See, if you are working on victim's perspective, you want to collect some information on victim's perspective that there's a problem with the recognition of victims' rights in India. So therefore, we should come out with some specific scheme where compensation should also be given to victims. So friends, you must understand who is a victim. The context is very much relevant. Victims of labor law, where the worker is terminated from employment. Victims of motor accidents. It may be a case of hit and run, fault reliability or no fault reliability. victims in case of trial process, like under trials. So whether a person, a terrorist who has killed 50 people can be treated as a victim for the purpose of your research, because there's so much of literature is available in the public domain. A terrorist who has killed 50 people can be treated as a victim. Number two, a person who is illegally appointed or illegally admitted to particular course can be treated as a victim. I tell you two judgments, recent judgments by Supreme Court. The first judgment is, that is Abdul Ahad versus Union of India, 17th August 2000, 2021. The judgment is related to illegal admission. There are some students were admitted through private counsel, not public counseling process. And later on, their admission was declared illegal by Medical Council of India. They approached the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came heavily on these people, that you cannot take benefits of your own wrong. Their admission was illegal because it was not done through public counseling. It was done through private counseling. So that victim card was not approved in that case by Supreme Court. 3 judges bench. Now, next judgment decided on 7th September 2021. This is regarding illegal appointments of 38 workers. This Bharat Coal, the cooking coal limited versus Workmen. 2 judges bench. Some 38 workers were illegally employed by parcel manager, and when this fact was discovered, the appointments were terminated by the appellant company. Now they question the termination of employment on the ground that a process was not followed, principles of justice was not complied. So many arguments were raised. But the Supreme Court, after relying upon various judgments, approved the decision of appellant company because they were illegally appointed. So rule of law is available only to those people who have followed rule of law. Right? So victim's perspective is very much relevant. Who is a victim? Victim in a specific context. And if you are collecting some information regarding victims of a specific crime, a specific process, specific scheme, so the information must be relevant to that context. You cannot generalize that information. And you must be in a position to distinguish between facts and opinions. Because opinions are very, very subjective, highly unreliable. So in order to have that accurate data or verifiable fact, then you must be in a position to verify the facts. Don't simply buy the arguments raised by someone unless it is verified by some sources. And information must not be biased. Researcher must collect information objectively, which is directly related to the research questions identified by the person. He should not be biased, should not become a party to that research, should not collect one side of the information. He should have that balanced approach, should not collect that relevant information which suits his requirement or her requirement. He should not be biased. He should have that balanced approach, and for that purpose, he should collect relevant information for all purposes. If there are some information which are contrary to the belief or trust of the scholar, no problem. You must include all relevant information, whether that information is in favor or not in favor of the research assignment, and whether the information meet current needs. This is with respect to latest information, that you must have latest information. If you don't have latest information, you do research, then the research is of no use, like it was done by the Supreme Court in the judgment of that payment of gratuity judgment. that was revised in March 2019. So collect latest information, and information must be complete in itself. Don't collect that part of that information which is relevant or suitable to your perceptions, your feelings. Certainly not. You must collect relevant information related to a fact and issue, related to research questions. Yeah. So any question regarding this data authenticity? Okay. So let us proceed further, friends. Now, what are the challenges of information technology or internet data? Data is available, huge data is available. But how far the data is relevant? How far the data is useful? How far the data is authentic? Because research requires value addition to the existing pool of knowledge. If you simply collect relevant data, submit a research paper, and by irrelevant considerations your paper is published, so nobody is going to appreciate that approach, the paper, right? So there are some issues regarding quality of data. It becomes very difficult for the researcher to collect quality data, especially from open sources. And there are funding constraints also. And this problem of quality of data is not confined to one particular country. It is a rampant problem across the globe. You have so many softwares, anti-plagiarism softwares like Turnitin. There are so many softwares, but the softwares are of some use. It all depends upon understanding of the subject by the teacher, because there is a distinction between plagiarism and similarity index. The plagiarism, that is academic theft, is not at all allowed by anyone. Similarity index is a reflection of use of internet data from the data bank, right? So collect data from authentic source, official source, and language is again barrier with respect to access to public data. You might find some literature, data in foreign language or maybe local language, and it becomes very difficult for the researcher to translate that. And in case the data is translated, it may have different interpretation. So I think these are the constraints regarding access to quality data. So you must verify the data from authentic source or original source, right? So quality of data is very much relevant to your research. Number two, constraints regarding accurate and authentic data. No dearth of data, but there is a problem of accurate and quality data. Like I talked about that the UGC guidelines and UGC regulations. Now, in one particular case, I visited one particular website, a reputed website, and on that website, there was a specific statement made by the data bank, and this is regarding state of Rajasthan versus Vidyavati 1992 judgment, and the judgment is related to vicarious liability. This judgment was decided by 5 judges bench, and another judgment, that is Ralia Ram Kasturi Lal versus state of UP 1965. Another judgment related to vicarious liability, decided by 5 judges bench. When I visited that website, I saw this particular statement that this Ralia Ram Kasturi Lal judgment has overruled state of Rajasthan versus Vidyavati judgment of 62. So how come a 5 judges bench can overrule another 5 judges bench judgment? This is regarding sovereign and non-sovereign function and the state of accountability. Accountability was state under Article 300. But there is another judgment, that N. Nagendra Rao and Sons versus State of Andhra Pradesh Division Bench, which has impolitely overruled these two judgments, because according to the judgment of 1994, there is no distinction between sovereign and non-sovereign function. It all depends upon composition of powers and how these powers are exercised. So for that purpose, you must know the development, jurisprudential paradigms of a specific context, vicarious liability. 1861, there are a series of judgments. Government of India Act, 1935, Indian Constitution 300, Supreme Court judgments. So you must know latest information, then you would be in a position to provide accurate and authentic data. So don't simply borrow it from some internet sources, right? If you collect low quality data, if you have low quality inputs, your output will be diluted. So as a law student, you should not be misled by something, some draft, some statute, because bill is very different from statute. But again, there's a lot of issues. You would find the title of some draft as Act, Domestic Workers Act 2012, where that is draft. Statute is always approved and enacted by the parliament, not enacted by some NGO. So you must be very sure about the fundamentals of law. Then only you would be in a position to collect accurate and authentic data. The third one is availability of latest data. This is the problem, because we don't monitor latest developments. We don't understand the requirements of latest information. So review of literature is an integral part of any research. So without latest data, or if you rely upon outdated data, then your research will be diluted. See, in case of labor law, this Workmen Compensation Act 1923 was amended in 2009, and the nomenclature, the title of that particular statute was changed to Employees Compensation Act 1923. Even after 2009, even in 2021, you would find some literature where you would see that old nomenclature. We don't follow the latest development, so we must know the latest changes. In case of Ministry of Land and Employment, because labor laws are applicable to workers according to income limits. When you visit this website for collecting primary that pertinent data, you may not be in a position to get the relevant data. I have done some research on that. So I collected the pertinent data from news reporting. Thereafter, I verified the data from that gadget notification. It happens so many times. And in case of legal aid research also, because there is an income requirement, but you find that outdated income limit, 50,000, 20,000 in case of High Court and Supreme Court, whereas the latest limit is more than 1 lakh rupees or 2 lakh rupees, depending upon the specific institution. So latest data is very relevant, very pertinent. Without latest data, no research is possible. Fourth one, plagiarism. Friends, respect originality. Respect somebody's contribution, hard work. Don't simply borrow it, because CCP is very popular nowadays. Cut, copy, paste. The data collected through CCP is not appreciated. This academic dishonesty is not rewarded in any case. So don't use unfair means for data collection. Right? Don't convert data, somebody's data, as your own data. So this plagiarism is a serious problem. And we have so many tools, so many softwares, but I feel softwares are not so effective. It all depends upon a competency or understanding of a teacher or a student. Because that software is a reflection of similarity index, and similarity index may not be a reflection of that plagiarism, right? Because there is a difference between similarity index and plagiarism. We have that confusion is also approved by that UGC regulations on plagiarism. You can read that specific regulation where there is a confusion regarding similarity index and plagiarism. Similarity index in the form of plagiarism is permitted up to 10% or beyond that. So that should not be done by the scholar, that should not be done by the researcher. So you must be very sure about plagiarism. Research must be of sound quality. You must come out with your original research. You must contribute to the existing pool of knowledge. If you are going to repeat literature, you are involved in plagiarism, one or the other day you will be held accountable, right? So don't believe in shortcuts, because success is achieved through hard work, and there is no shortcut to success. It is always a hard work. Hard work is recognized, right? So don't do it for short-term gains. Do the hard work, come out with quality research. Your research will be published, you will be involved, you will be invited, and your contribution will be appreciated. Your peer group will appreciate that contribution, because it is the contribution that does matter a lot, not the designation of the person, whether the person is a student or a teacher or otherwise, right? So any question regarding this, the constraints regarding internet data? Yeah, then we'll conclude it. So friends, recognize ethical values for data collection, respect, honesty and integrity, and zero tolerance against plagiarism. We should ensure accountability of all the researchers for low quality research. Acknowledge the limitations of IT tools. IT tools are the supplement supporters. They are not the master, but the moment you treat them master, then there's problem of quality of research. The tools are supposed to support your research, provide you some relevant data, accurate data. Should not be misled by the internet data, because it involves inherent risks. Don't trust data unless it is verified, corroborated, supported by relevant primary or secondary data. Okay, I think that's it. Oh, 15:23. Yes, friends. So any question, any clarification? I am done. I'm concluded my part. And again, because of paucity of time, I won't be in a position to discuss so many issues regarding that constraints regarding internet data, accessibility of internet data, and then other issues. So, do you have any question, any clarification? Yes, friends.
Sir, what about static data?
Which data?
Static data.
Static data.
Like how to check its authenticity.
Statistic data. Are you talking about statistic data?
Static data
now,
about any research or report.
Friends, data can be classified into qualitative data and quantitative data. Qualitative data deals with characteristics, words, and quantitative data deals with the numbers, like annual reports or that what is that National Crime Bureau report. See, if there is a primary research that is conducted by somebody else and the person has quoted some data, so you can quote the data by referring that appropriate report. right? If you have collected some data from a particular report, give reference to that. Suppose you are working on some judicial trends related to juvenile justice or number of cases regarding juvenile justice. So collect data, you can compare it, you can interpret it. Sorry. Go beyond summarization. Have analytical approach. Critical analysis very pertinent. Yeah. Anybody else? Hope your doubts are
Yes,
clear
sir.
now. Okay, yeah.
So one
Anybody
question.
else? Yes.
Yes,
Please,
sir.
everyone, please, whoever wants to ask the question, please raise your hands and then speak up, right? Okay, Priyanshu, go ahead.
I have to unshare that, na? Can I stop?
Yes, sir.
Presentation?
Please stop. Yeah.
Okay, now.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Priyanshu.
Sir, I have a question. Like, if primary data can be normative in nature, like
Hmm.
collecting data through questionnaires, I am collecting different opinions from different people, and when opinions come, biasness naturally comes with it. So that biasness need to be diluted with positive analysis to make a fact, or that certain level of biasness is good.
Yes, I appreciate your question, friends. See, whenever you do empirical research, in order to rule out the subjectivity, you must involve all the stakeholders. Number one. Number two, and you should also rely upon your observations. Like, I think there is a research conducted by somebody on death penalty. The research is confined to only death row prisoners. The person has not involved other stakeholders. Right? The perspectives of death row prisoners have been included. So if that is the case, what would be the status of that report? One-sided. So research expects balanced approach. Now coming back to your question, in order to rule out subjectivity, you must adopt scientific method, appropriate sampling method, appropriate statistical analysis tools. If you convert the data into quantitative data and thereafter you apply statistical tools, the tests, then people are likely to trust your report, primary data. The real problem of social science research is it deals with human behaviors, people's perception, right? That is the problem. So in order to take care of that subjectivity, you have to be very cautious, systematic, use scientific tools, scientific approaches to provide authenticity to your research. If you are doing it in haphazard manner, people will consider it biased approach. The researcher must not involve himself in that research. It is the data that will speak for itself, right? So don't involve your emotions, feelings, perceptions while doing research. Don't become a party to that research assignment. Let the data speak for itself. Draw some conclusions only on the basis of data collected by you. Right? Yeah. Anybody else? I think done.
Anybody else would like to ask questions to sir?
Chalo, I think
All right. Okay, I think yes, we can conclude. Yeah.
Chalo, okay, friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your words of wisdom. I'm sure the students have been inspired and enjoyed this session. And, sir, as you said, research is not a storytelling thing, it is a systematic thing after which decision making plays an important role. I believe after this session, we, the students, will definitely improve our researching skills and will use them later for our professional life. And I would also like to thank our coordinators, our faculty members, director sir, and students for cooperating with us and staying with us throughout. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. All right, thank you all.
Get to submit your feedback form.
Yeah, all students, please fill your feedback forms and submit. All can leave now and get back to your classes.